Greetings! It is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the second edition of AD&D. Well, where we last left off, we were talking about NPCs and, of course, hirelings. Let's talk some more about hirelings today. Well, now that we know all the different types of hirelings, it's time for us to actually hire on our hirelings that we are looking for. There is a specific process that we go about for hiring a hireling, regardless if it's just the common everyday Joe Schmo hireling that we need or some kind of really specific exotic expert. Now, the first thing you have to look at is what's going on in the area you're hiring from. First off, because you're hiring these people, you might offend someone. Now you're saying, what's this mean? This is normally offending other hirelings, other NPCs, or offending officials. The fact is, each region has their own rules for hiring people, possibly taking people out of that region, things like that. It could be that you're in a region where certain types of skilled labor are required, and you hiring one and taking it with you on an adventure would offend someone. It's not like they're really necessarily required there, it's just government officials want them to stay, encourage them to stay. Hence, offense. You could also worry about depopulating an area, removing a lot of the major population, especially skilled workers. The fact is that if you only hire a few people on, you usually don't have to worry about depopulation, but if you have a large group of hirelings that's needed, then you might have to worry about that. Also, poaching individuals from a town, basically hiring towns for your castle or your town that you're building, is frowned upon. Now, a way around a lot of this is to go directly to the officials. If you're not effectively poaching anybody and you just want to hire some people on for a temporary job, you could very easily go to the important officials in that town and talk to them. At that point in time, they are probably going to have to make some kind of arrangement with you. Whether this is money or favor or something else entirely will be up to your DM to determine. They are free to come up with whatever seems appropriate to the town here as to what you need to do to earn the right to use these NPCs in your, of course, whatever you're doing. You're building them, what you're hiring them for, the job that you need them for. Now, once we have permission to finally hire these people on, and we're not offending anybody, we're not depopulating the area, well, now we actually have to send the word out. There are a number of ways you can do this. Certain skilled groups and laborers, you can look to guilds and other tradesmen who might be able to send the word out amongst them. That's a very good way of getting those skilled types. If you're just looking for a large number of general population commoners, unskilled workers, or soldiers, then you could very easily use something like a crier who can spread the word, because there isn't really a lot of printed paper. It's not a process that technically exists right now in this setting, so sending out flyers or something doesn't work. You have a crier who sends the word. If the town wouldn't have a crier, you could easily hire some kind of child to do the exact same job. You might also want to put information in with like innkeepers, barkeepers, or in public houses, public areas, maybe putting up some kind of flyer there. Something that you only need like maybe one sheet of paper and you've got it posted that people can notice it. You're spreading the word that you're looking for people for a certain job. Now, depending on how common the job is, depends on how much kind of response you're going to get. If it's a very common, unskilled job, you're more than likely going to see about 10% of the population get a response to you, especially if you're looking for larger numbers. If you're looking for something a little more skilled, then you might get about 5% of the population. For some of the very rare and exotic jobs, they're highly skilled jobs, you might only get 1% or less of the population actually responding to you. Now, this percentage can change because of situations. Things like plague or an evil tyrant lording over the land you're trying to hire people on will tend to drop these numbers. On the other hand, you could offer special incentives which will make people want to join more. Usually you can increase the percentage from 1 to 10% above what it would normally be, and that's modified by any kind of situations. All of these numbers are going to be determined by the DM. Basically, the situational modifiers will be added in by them, and whatever incentives, they'll determine how that affects this percentage in the end, and it will basically be a percentage of the population that would respond to you and be willing to become hirelings for you. Now, the difficulty comes when we talk about those exotic NPCs we talked about, those exotic hirelings. Sages, as I said, aren't going to be in every town. Now, the fact is, you can sort of look for one. If you send out in amongst other sages or learned types, you could send the word you're looking for an expert on this. This means that even if the town you're in might have a sage for a certain other topic, they might know someone that would be able to be in contact with you, which would be the appropriate sage. So really, getting the word out in amongst the learned types would be the easiest way to find a sage of a specific topic, because you never know how many towns or cities you have to travel to actually find one. Speaking from before, cities being the place that you're actually normally going to find any. On the other hand, spies and assassins, if you're going around asking for them and asking to hire them, you just can get really funny looks from people and probably very suspicious looks from people. You don't go asking around for that. They don't advertise. What you're going to have to do is it's going to be some kind of quest or adventure in order to find these types in and of itself. So if I'm looking for a spy or looking for an assassin, it might not be a huge adventure, but it's going to be one in order to find this person that can get this sort of dirty job done for me. Now that we've gotten all our applications out, a bunch of people are going to come into us. We will remove those that we feel are unfit for the job, and it's time to hire on our actual hirelings. Every hireling, depending on the job, has a standard pay over weeks and months. Some of these pays seem low. The fact is, the reason this is because you have to pay for more than just the hireling, which you're paying on for. Some of these you might have to pay room and board for, especially if you have a large group of commoners working on a project, you probably want to work on that. Anything from the middle of the road sort of jobs and above are going to expect this. The fact is also, if you have special individuals, they might expect certain types of gifts or stipulations from you as part of this job. A important leader of amongst of hirelings is probably going to want some kind of office or something that's going to signify their rank and insignia. The fact is, the more that you do give these folks gifts and incentives, which may in fact bring them into you in the first place, the less you could technically pay some of them, because it's a balancing act. But you're also splitting the play between everybody in the general. You have a budget normally, and it's this kind of balancing act between the gifts you give them and the pay you give them that you can try to balance, but if you push it too far in one direction, they're not going to be happy. If you basically don't pay them a lot and you're not giving them any gifts, probably not going to stay around. If you're giving too much of both, well, they're going to be really happy, but you're losing out money. Finding that right balance right at the point in time is usually around what you want to expect. Soldiers, for example, normally you're equipping them. So that can get expensive. That's the thing is, when you're hiring someone on and you have to pay for a lot of their stuff, it gets expensive fast, especially if you get a lot of hirelings, a lot of soldiers that you're hiring on. But that's it for today. So, I talked all about actually hiring hirelings. Yes, kind of obvious. I talked about, what you want to do when you're going into a territory to maintain good relations with the actual officials of this place, because they might not be very happy with you hiring people, how you spread the word, what kind of response you're going to get, and I talked about paying your hirelings. All this information is just basically you're hiring a hireling. Now, there is a little bit more on hiring a hireling we will talk about in the next episode, but we will also move into talking about henchmen, another type of NPC, which will be important to talk about. I'll explain everything in the next episode. But if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It shows support for the channel, the Empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you can always check out my Patreon. A link to the description below. There's some great rewards there, and it helps to grow and improve the channel. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.